Hi there, today I'm talking about Half Bad by Sally Green. First off, the cover is beautiful. It's got that kind of rubbery feel to it that Penguin English Library has, but it's also like reverse side, and the typography is really disorienting and whatever. I keep putting it upside down, and there's a face in the ink, and I realise, if not upside down, clown face. Here's the nose, here's his chin. Something to add to the book, maybe. So this is a young adult fantasy about witches, and in this world, it's set in England, Scotland, Wales, the UK, and it's about a boy called Nathan, who is half white and half black. Black witches are the bad witches, and white witches are the good witches. And he comes from like a really horrible history of abuse. His family, he's brought up by his grandmother because his mum killed herself, and his dad, apparently, he's a black witch, raped her and killed all of his half-siblings' dad. So not a good start. And he has a brother and two sisters, and one of the sisters is really horrible to him. And you just like, it starts out very strangely. It's in the second person, which makes it so much more personal, and you can feel the pain. It starts out very, very disorientingly. He's in a cage. He's kept in a cage, made to sleep outside. You don't hear about any other characters but him in the second person in this instance. And it's very disturbing. It's really disturbing. I was just watching somebody else's review on this, and they were saying that they feel sympathy pains. And there's this one bit in this that he just goes through such horrific physical pain, and it was horrible for this person that had sympathy pains because she'd like felt it, and it was awful. There's like quite a lot of violence, quite a lot of just like physical hand-to-hand combat sort of brutality, which isn't very nice, and he's bullied, and just like the abuse that this guy has to go through. He starts out 10. The first bit is like a flash. The first bit is in the present, and then it's a flashback, and then it's back into the present. So, but it takes up the time span of between the ages of I think 10 and 17. By the time he finishes the book, he's just turned 17. So you get to see the character like grow up, and I don't really understand the character Nathan, because I can't mentally put myself in that position as if I were a victim of that much abuse and hatred, and you're a black witch, you're bad, and he's just so used to that and used to everyone being against him. It's quite horrific, and yet he has to, elevate himself over that and become this moderately heroic character. Although he isn't like unanimously good. He kind of struggles with himself a bit over whether the white part of himself is going to win or the black part. And you can see that most of it is from, it's either in second person or in first person perspective. So you kind of get he's just trying to get along with life. He doesn't have cruel intentions, but then he does beat people up, mostly provoked, but and he does steal, not for his own ends, but not maliciously. So it's really hard to for you to kind of grasp whether he's good or bad, because you naturally want the protagonist to be a good person, and he is. He kind of settles that his body is black and his spirit is white. Something really got me in this book is, like, I say this a lot, just like, why are our morals, is it's never explained why black is bad. I made a note of this point. that far into the book, more than halfway, is like the first time they vaguely mention why black is bad, and they're just, it's very much just like they're bad because they're black. You know, there's never an explanation apart from the fact that this guy Nathan's dad is like a murderer. He's killed loads and loads and loads of people for his own ends, and then it appears for sport, which is an indication of why black witches are bad. But also the white witches are like worse. They're not worse, but they seem to have no problem with keeping this, you know, 14-year-old boy captive in a cage, and he's tortured by these kids from a family that live nearby and go to the same school, and they're just like, you're bad because you're a black witch, and they're physically abusing him, and it's just like the right and wrong seem sort of reversed, and it kind of just like, you don't even really think about it until you're about a quarter of the way through the book and realize that it's only your association with white being good and black being bad that you feel like you should side with the whites. Literally just like those colours. I know there's a racial metaphor in there as well, but that's not actually referenced directly. So I really liked it. I didn't expect to. I kind of was like halfway through and I was like, I like this, but I don't really feel attached to the main character. But that's probably because I can't really understand going through a lot of the stuff that he does. Oh yeah, back to that what is bad thing. I mean, the whole thing's called Half Bad, so it's always referencing that. The epigraph is from Hamlet, and it reads, "There is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so." But this whole, yeah, it's all from the kind of perspective of the white side, even though you're kind of combating it. It's complicated. I only found out about 2/3 of the way through this book that it is the first in a planned trilogy. It only came out this year. So we have quite a while to wait for it to all be resolved, but I was sort of expecting it to be resolved at the end. And sadly, it's one of those ones where it doesn't really conclude. I mean, it has some sort of conclusion, but it's very much just like eking it out for you to need to read the second one to you know, get that closure. But I did really enjoy it. I was left wanting a little bit because it's such a, like, initially I was like, concept, white witches and black witches, like, who gives a shit? But I really grown to be attached to like the whole idea of this book. I wish the world was more thorough. I know there's a point, but it's kind of like he goes on this adventure for all intents and purposes, and has to find a person, but has to go through lots of routes to find them, and they're just kind of like, oh, and then Jim was there, and you haven't heard about Jim before, and it's like, I feel like what I really like about fantasy is like the world immersion and the world building, and although we're in England, we don't really get to see the wider spectrum of, there's like this council of white witches, and there's like a council building, but we don't get the perspective of like other white and black witches living in the thing, and unless Nathan comes directly into contact with one of them, which I think is a shame, because I feel like I could get completely caught up in this world if I was more a part of it. Anyway, yeah, left me a bit wanting at the end because of the fact that it's a planned trilogy, essentially. But I really like this. I gave it 4 stars out of 5, which means I'm giving it 8 out of 10. I do this 5 thing on GOODREADS, but then in my personal notes I do it out of 10, and it's really hard to just decide what means what. But anyway, Half Bad by Sally Green, I would recommend. Thank you.